Hey everybody, welcome to Board Game Heaven. In this episode, I'm going to talk about Lucidity Six-Sided Nightmares by Shannon Kelly of Foxtail Games, the designer and publisher of the game. And this was on Kickstarter a year ago. It's a dice rolling game in which you are dreamers and you have to score as many points as you can, but you can also turn into a nightmare. And just a quick shout out to Shannon Kelly for shipping the box in this bigger box, which was nicely padded, has some artwork on it as well, so very well done. And let's open up the box, check what's inside, I'll explain the rules and tell you what I think about it. Alright, Lucidity Six-Sided Nightmares by Shannon Kelly. Let's have a look at the box. So some nice artwork of the different nightmares on the back. There's an artistic impression of the dice. The dice are going to be very nice. I'll show you. So it's a game for 1 to 4 players, 14 up, plays in about half an hour. So let's open it up. Alright, so first of all, here's a booklet with the contents. It has 80 dice, 20 in 4 colors. There's a cotton bag, all the cards are here. So you have a nice summary, the setup of the game, turn order. So the rules are explained in here with nice illustrations. All the symbols are in the text, which makes it easy. 2-player game. Here's the single-player variant, which is called the Boardgame. And there's also a hard mode. Credits here and a handy index. So that is well done. Nice art here. So that's one rule book. Then we have 4 nice art prints in here of all the fears and the nightmares that you have. So that's a nice extra. And here are the player boards. So we have 4 of those, and they're cardstock, so they're not thick cardboard tiles, but they are nicely finished, so they can take some handling. So we have the Dreamer on this side, Lady of Envy on the other side, the Lord of the Depths, and here is the Lord of Imprisonment and the Lady of Primeval Fear. So that all looks very nice and nightmarish, as it should. And then, of course, all the dice, and there are so many of them, and they're nice and shiny. So let's have a look. So we have these. They're rather small, but they're very nice. They're translucent, they're engraved, and they have the nice white artwork on them, very clear symbols. There's the eye, sleep symbol, and the points. So there's the green ones, lots of them. We have the blue ones. That nice and dark blue, very shiny, gotta love that. I love me some dice. The yellow ones, nice transparent dice. And the red ones. So there you go, 20 of each. Nice. And then there's here these tracker markers. Basically, each player gets one, and they're glass beads, but they're transparent, so that's nice to put on one of these things so you can still see through and see at which number you are at. And it looks like a water drop, kind of, so that's it's a nice touch. It's a nice tracker. It's a lot better than just a cardboard circle that you put on your board. So that looks all very well done and nicely produced. Here is a nice velvet bag with this fear symbol printed on it. It's a nice touch. So you can store all these dice quickly and easily. So you need to pull dice from the bag. And the insert itself is nice. It's nice art print here. See, all the way around. So that is also very cool. Even underneath, there's artwork. So yes, that is very cool. All right, let's put that back. And here are the Nightmare cards. So let me open those up. So here is a card of Primeval Fear. There you go, here's a dragon. And here is a monster. It comes out of a lady's skin. Creepy. Here is the Nightmare of Imprisonment. People imprisoned. Or entombed, buried alive. So we have two kinds of artwork for each type of fear. There is the Nightmare of Envy. Here's another one. A Nightmare of the Depths. And the Depths of Space as well. Yep. Then we have an extra nightmare, the Nightmare of Temptation, which was a nightmare that got unlocked as one of the stretch goals during the Kickstarter campaign, if I remember correctly. So we have a red and a green apple. And then we have a summary card that is handy to have with all the symbols here. So a player reference card as well. And that is everything that's in the box. Let's set up a game. The setup for Lucidity is as follows. Each player takes one of these cards, and these cards are double-sided. They have a solo play side. Each card has a different color. And the multiplayer side. So you take the multiplayer side, you take this dream tracking token, and you take this turn order summary card, this player aid, and it also has the faces of all the dice and their colors on the other side, which is a handy reference. And you simply put all the 4 nightmare cards in the middle of the table where people can read them easily. There is also this extra promotional card. It was a stretch goal, I believe, that can either replace the green Envy card or the red Primeval Fear card. That's an optional card. Then you take all the dice, and there's 80 of them, 20 of each color, and you put them in the bag. You give it a good shake, and you put it on the table, and it has a very nice Fear logo on it as well. And that's how you start playing. So let's go to the rules. So how to play the game? Well, as the card here says, you've got 5 steps. First, you choose a sleep track. Now your card has 3 sleep tracks over here, one starting with 3, one starting with 4, and one starting with 5. That indicates the number of dice you draw from the bag, and then you return 2 and roll the rest. So if you start at the 3, you only start with rolling 1 die. And then if you want to press your luck, you continue to the 5, which is the second part of the track, and you draw 5 dice and you roll 3. And then you can press your luck again and draw 7 dice and return 2 and roll 5. And this is just the same, but +1 and again +1. So let's say, for example, I will start at this dream track at number 4. So I take the bag, I randomly draw 4 dice, then I can return 2 to the bag. So let me just return these 2 green ones, and then I roll them. So I roll the dice, and they have different faces. And all those faces are also explained on the card, more or less. So you've got this symbol, which I rolled, and that is a hunt. If ever I get 4 hunts, I'm out of the game. So I'm basically eliminated, but that would be my own fault. So even though I generally don't like games with player elimination, this is really up to you, because you can always return dice to the bag. So if you're at 3, I would suggest not rolling any more red dice. So that's one thing that can happen. There's also these exhaustion symbols, which means you're dreaming, and you're sleeping so deeply that it exhausts you. And once this is filled, you lose power, which I will explain in a bit. And these are the shadows, which is this eye symbol. And every time you place a die, which they call dreams in this game, on these spots, you fill up this track, and you have to do something, and each color has a different ability. Basically, that's the nightmare compelling you to do something. And once these fill up, you turn into one of those nightmares. So in a 4 or 3 player game, you turn into a nightmare when you fill up 3 spots, and in a 2 player game, you have to fill up 4 spots or more, because you can actually add more shadow dice here than indicated, but at the 3, or in a 2 player game 4, 4th die, you turn. And you have power points as well here. That's this symbol, and basically these, as you can see here. And that's your victory points, basically. And once you have 15 points, and there's also points with a number 2 on it, not on this one though, but on, let me see, the red one has a 2, and I believe, oh, that's it actually. So the other ones only have 1s, but those are your points. And whenever a player reaches 15 points, then you end the round, and the person with the most points wins. So the game also ends whenever all players turn into nightmares, and then the game ends immediately, and the nightmare with the most points at that moment wins the game. And so I've rolled these 2 dice, and now I have to resolve those dice. So first I take a look, like it says here. So I've drawn them, I've returned 2, and I rolled them, then I resolve them. So first I check my points, my hunts, and my exhaustion, and after that, only then, I resolve these eyes, which are the shadows. So I've got a point here. I can do these in any order. I've got a hunt that goes here. I did not roll. Oh, actually I did. I just changed that. So I rolled a shadow here. So I put it on the green track, the envy track. And when that happens, I re-roll 1 dream of the next player's choice. So the next player in line, which is the player in clockwise order to the left of me, he can say, well, you can re-roll that one or that one. In this case, you could also, if I had any points, tell me to re-roll one of those, which could be negative. So let's say the player wants me to re-roll this, because maybe he wants to get me some more of those. So I re-roll it. Well, turns out to be the same. And then the next player oh, I can press my luck actually. So I'm gonna press my luck. I draw 6 dice. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I return 2. So let's return a blue one and a green one. And the second step, I roll them. All right. So now I've got different ones again. So I resolve them. I place the hunt on the hunt track. I place the exhaustion on the exhaust track. I place the points on the points track, the power track, and I have another shadow, a blue one, so it's the shadow of the depths, and I place it here. Now that one tells me to draw and roll 1 dream. So I randomly draw 1 die, and I have to roll it. So I roll it, and I get a point. So lucky me, and I can resolve that. And so keep that in mind. Always resolve these symbols first, and only then the shadows. So at the end of your turn, after all the dice have been resolved, it's then that you check how many dice do I have. It could happen that if I press my luck too far and I have to roll lots of dice, I could actually end up having multiple rows filled up to 3 or even go beyond 3. So then at the end of your round, when you've resolved all your dice, you check which nightmare has the most dice, and that's the nightmare you become. And in case of a tie, you can choose between the 2 or 3 or 4. So that's basically what you do in your turn, and then you can choose to press your luck last time. You draw, in this case, 8. It could be 7 or 9 in the other 2 tracks. And that's the last one. So each track has only 3 stages. But if at any time my exhaustion track would be full, then I can't press my luck any further. So if this was filled with 3 dice, then I'd have to stop. Plus, I would have to draw a random die from the bag, and that color would be the color of all the power I lose. So in this case, if my exhaust was full and I drew a green die, then I lose all my green points. So beware of that as well. So this gets you out of the game. This loses points for you and ends your turn, and these can turn you into a nightmare. So we've discussed these two. So the other colors, the yellow and the red, let's see, let's just quickly grab a red die. There we go. So if I roll those eyes, the shadows, and I place them, the yellow one, the one of imprisonment, tells me to rotate 1 exhaustion die and turn it to its shadow face. It doesn't matter which color, it doesn't need to be yellow, it just says a exhaustion die, so this one, and I turn it to that. It doesn't move, it just stays here, and that can, move, or stuff can happen with that die when it's on that side later. And in this case, the Primeval Fear one, you may move 1 shadow to a hunt space. So if I wanted to, I could take any one of these and move it over there, but it does stay an eye, so maybe I want to get rid of a couple. Maybe I've already got lots of these and I'm close to becoming a nightmare and I don't want to be a nightmare, then I could take that one and move it there. But keep in mind, if this is full, I'm out of the game, so maybe I wouldn't want to do that, but that's optional. You may move. So that's what those do, and that's how you play, and you try to get as many points as you can as fast as possible. So pressing your luck is good, but keep all your stats in check. When you decide to end your turn, either by reaching the last point in your dream track or just simply deciding to stop early and not press your luck any farther, then you can do one of 2 things. You can either remove 1 of the shadow dice on your player card or remove all of your exhaustion dice. So had this been another exhaustion die, I could have removed both of these, and in another case I can also just pick one of these to remove, and then you put them back in the bag, and that ends your turn. So what happens when you become a nightmare? When any player has filled their shadow rows of a nightmare and claimed one of these nightmare cards, they turn into a nightmare. What happens then is that they return all these dice to the bag except their power points. So let's say I already had some power dice, some dreams, and I turned into the Nightmare of Envy. So I take all the other dice, put them back into the bag, I claim the Envy card, and I put it here over this side of my player board. And then I've got only 2 options, which are also on my card when I'm a nightmare. I can consume power or send minions, and then end my turn. So it's basically only one thing I can do. When I consume power, I can take any 1 or 2 power dice, just 1 though, from any other player, be they a nightmare or a dreamer still, and add it to my own. So if any one of these had any green dice, and the green dice only have the 1 power symbol, the red one is the only one with the 2, I could take one of those and add them to my own points, which is of course very good. So, but then my turn ends. So there's not a whole lot that does. Or I can send minions, which means I draw 2 dice randomly from the bag, I checked them, I put one back, so if it was green, that would be good for me. But in this case, well, I'll just return one, and then that any other player of my choosing would have to roll it and, you know, resolve them. So I could potentially give them points, but I could also exhaust them, give them a shadow, or even in the red die case, give them a hunt, possibly eliminating them. So that's what that does. And each of these shadows also have a special ability. So after having done the consume power or send minions action, I can, in the case of envy, so that's first here, it also says when any dreamer would resolve a shadow or an exhaustion of envy, so a green die with the eye or the moon, move it to your card as a point. So that's also stealing points, very nice. And then you may choose either the dreamer re-rolls any 2 dreams of their choice, so any 2 dice on their card, and then I take any points they roll, or the dreamer re-rolls 1 dream of my choice, or your own choice. So I could have them re-roll a green shadow, for example, and maybe, you know, I turn it into a point, and I can steal that. So that's what envy does, and they're two-sided, but they're exactly the same, just the artwork is different. So we have the Nightmare of the Depths. Here is he in the depths of the ocean, and here in the depths of space. And what that does is when any dreamer rolls a Shadow of the Depths, so a blue die with the eye on it, you can move it to your card as a point. So envy also had the exhaustion, this one doesn't. And then you may draw 2 dreams, return 1 to the bag, and the dreamer rolls the other. So that is also basically what this side of your card does, as you can see. So this also tells you to draw and roll 1 dream, and re-roll 1 dream of the next player's choice, and rotate an exhaustion to the shadow face, and may move 1 shadow to the hunt space. So that's basically what these nightmares do, really. So we've seen this one. And as you will see, the Nightmare of Imprisonment, here is somebody interred in the coffin, and here it's in a cage. So when any dreamer would resolve a shadow or exhaustion of imprisonment, so a yellow die with these symbols, move it to your card as 1 point, and then you may move a shadow on their card of any color to any exhaustion space on their card. So, you know, making them exhausted more. And then finally, the Nightmare of Primeval Fear. Here is a creepy monster thing, wolf in human skin. And on the other side, there's a dragon, fire everywhere. So, Primeval Fear, when any dreamer would resolve either the shadow or the hunt on a red die, move it to your card as a point, and then you may move a shadow on their card of any color to a hunt space of their card. So the Primeval Fear makes you hunted, and the imprisonment makes you tired. And the deaths, what that does is press you a lot more, you know, make them roll a die. And the green one, the envy, steals lots of dice. So that's basically what the nightmares do, and that's all there is to know about the game. There is also a single-player variant. I will not go into that in detail, but it's called the Boardgame, and it's on the other side of these cards, as I said. So as you can see, these are all different. So there's one for each nightmare in each color, and they have all these spaces on them, and you fill them with dice. Basically what happens, they call them spooks. And well, it's explained here. That's a single-player variant, which is also fun. I haven't played it yet. I have seen some playthroughs, but that's how you play Lucidity Six-Sided Nightmares. So my final thoughts on Lucidity Six-Sided Nightmares by Shannon Kelly. First of all, I love the artwork. I think it's really, really creepy and spooky. And there was also a deluxe version of the game, which had another box with more of these cards. They were the same basically, but they had child-friendly artwork on them, which was really nice as well. I like the rest of the components too. I like that we have this big draw bag that's nice and soft with the hunt symbol on it. I love the dice. There's so many. They're nice small dice, but they're all nice and translucent in these bright colors with very clear symbols on them, engraved, so they're not just printed on, and they all look very nice and perfect. And there's just so many of them. I love it. I like the fact that you get a very clear player turn overview card with the dice on them as well. I like the box of the art. I like the artwork on the player cards as well. The symbols are clear. You just have to get used to the words they use for, you know, the dreams are your dice. So this is the hunt, this is the exhaust, but it does say so on your card. This is your power, and these are shadows. And you're tempted to say these are eyes and Z's and this skull and points, but it doesn't really matter. It is just, it can get confusing when you're reading these. So, but it uses symbols on the cards as well. So it's not that hard. These use symbols as well. So the game is pretty clear. The rules are simple, they're not hard, they're easy to explain, and once you've played around, everybody will have memorized the rules. The box lid even has this frequently asked questions in it and overlooked rules. They are in the rules though, but you know, these are the ones that you might easily overlook. And you can use it as a dice tray as well. That is also very nice. So, and I love these. I love that these clear glass beads can be placed on your dreaming track, and then you can, it kind of magnifies the number that you're drawing from the bag, and then you return to, and well, you know how that goes. So all of that, the components and the art and the rules are very good, very clear. And the game plays very fast too. It's just, you know, you draw dice, you roll them, you resolve them, the next player goes, and that goes along pretty fast. And there is not a whole lot of player interaction other than when somebody else decides that you have to re-roll something, or when you become a nightmare, there's a little player interaction as well, because you're trying to get your dice, your points from them, they're stealing them. But other players will draw dice, and then they will see who has turned into a nightmare and return that color back to the bag, because they don't want to lose those dice, because anything you roll they will steal. So, you know, once somebody becomes a nightmare, that color of dice you don't want to roll anymore. And the more people become nightmares, the harder that becomes, of course. And well, once everybody turns into a nightmare, it's the person with the most points, which is usually the person who turns into the nightmare first. That's how I've experienced it. So, but it is a fun game. It's a light game. I see this as a filler, but it's fun. It's a press your luck dice rolling game, and that's really what it is. It's not much more than that. It's not very strategic. It's just lucky. It's just rolling dice, press your luck. So there's not a lot of depth in here. Choices are often pretty obvious, and you just resolve what you roll, and that's it. So it's not a heavy game. It's an easy game. It's a nice filler. I like it. I love to. The people I've played with liked it as well. So I'm gonna have to say, big thumbs up. I recommend trying this game at least, and that is Lucidity: Six-Sided Nightmares by Shannon Kelly. And so that was Lucidity: Six-Sided Nightmares by Shannon Kelly. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and see you next time on Board Game Heaven.